Okay, well, hello everyone, and welcome to this little lesson. Today, we are going to be painting a little hummingbird sitting on a twig. So I had that in the community page so that you could vote. So it's hard to find the community page, but I'm trying to use it more so that I can be, that we can interact better. So, let me just, sorry, my phone came on there with a commercial on YouTube because I was trying to use an OBS software that it just didn't connect. So I'm not tech savvy. I was trying to film it so that you could see the reference inside the stream. So what I'll do, because that didn't work, is I'm going to pull up the reference photo on my phone, and just bear with me here. And then here, now you can see it. It was just frustrating because I was trying to get it to work, but you always have something you have to learn. So anyways, okay, so I am going to just start off with a little wash of some ultramarine and some burnt sienna, just to, get kind of gray the canvas a little. And oh, by the way, I'm using a 6x6 canvas, and it's just one of those Blick Art ones. So let's just, and I have to put this on do not disturb, so all my ads and messages don't keep pinging on there. And this kind of gets the canvas ready to go, and you can always kind of wipe it off a bit. Just want a thin layer. I do this when I paint with oil paint as well, so it's a good way just to quickly kind of tone your canvas, and it's all transparent at this point, so you don't have to worry about having your colors get muddied up with some white paint. So I can use just some ultramarine blue and this burnt sienna just to sketch a little bit. So I kind of want to make sure the beak doesn't get cut off. So I like to place the beak so I know I'm not going to go too far off the canvas. If I start drawing from the bottom up, it can get sometimes tricky fitting it all on. So I can just I'm just sort of marking it out like where everything goes. And you can always just get something down, and then you can kind of gauge it as you go later, the drawing. And my drawings are not perfect. I kind of just go for it when I paint and see what happens. Unless I'm doing a commission and it's something I've never painted before, then I'm a little more concerned. But usually I just sort of kind of doodle it out, And so I feel like the beak is already, you start to see things pretty quick when you just start sketching. So the beak was kind of going too high. Well, thanks for joining the live stream. It's fun to paint live for you, and hopefully if you're painting along, you can eventually, I hope that YouTube makes it so you can post to the community page. That would be really nice if people could do that. Saves you having to go to I just don't like going to too many things like Facebook to try to find the posts and everything. It's just so much easier if it would be all in one area. And then I'm just going to draw the wing 'Cause you really want those to fit in there. I hate to sound, you know, commercial, but there's something funny if you get the wings cut off, people will write you and say, "Can you paint me one with the wings in the can?" They don't want it. Like, it's okay to have like a bull or a, still life kind of cut off, but for some reason you don't want to cut the wings off because people don't like that. So I learned after over the years of selling paintings that they want to see all the wings. So even a trick is if you can't fit it all and say you've drawn it and it's not all fitting, you just kind of have to shorten the little tail a bit if you are like reselling your art on like Etsy or something. So just going to draw a little twig. And I'm just using one of these little these are from Michael's. They come in a set, really cheap. This is just a Royal Soft Grip. And I think they come in like a little set. Really, really inexpensive. And let's zoom in. You can't really see the feet, what they're doing. So I am just gonna draw a little twig there and kind of put a little branch kind of veering off there, just to make it more interesting too. Okay, now I'm going to look at the drawing a little more. So you've got that and little eye here. Okay, so I think that's pretty good. And so I'm going to switch brushes to a little bit larger brush, maybe this one here. It's a Royal Lanical, says Moderna 12. Honestly, I don't even remember where I get half of these brushes. So now I'm going to add a little Viridian to my burnt sienna mix and some white. And just kind of make a warm kind of gray color. You can also add a little bit of this. I have some yellow oxide out here, and this is raw sienna. So you can warm it up a little with either one of those. And I'm just going to put a layer down. Because you want to show the feathers, so you got to put some kind of a base color down. There's a little bit back there, and then you can go with some white and Viridian and a little bit of that yellow oxide and sort of kind of build up a little more shape there using some lighter color there. And I'm going to let that kind of simmer a bit, and then I'm going to go and get some of this burnt sienna, and I'm going to block in the wing because I see a lot of that rusty kind of reddy brown in there. And I paint hummingbirds. I really don't stick to the color that well. There's so many varieties of hummingbirds that I kind of like to play around with adding different colors to them. So it's just sort of fun to do. But I'm adding a little bit of that underpaint in there because I see some of that in the little head there. Okay, and then I like to block in whenever I see a lot of detail in the red, I'll block in dark and go to light. So I'll block in a little alizarin. Okay, so now you see everything's kind of building from dark to light. So now I'm going to just block in, keep it simple, and just use a little Viridian and the burnt sienna mixed, and just go with a dark green for his little, just wherever you see kind of green, you want to sort of start off with something that'll be a darker version of the light. So I'll do the green, and there's a little bit under his beak, and same with on the feathers that are kind of up here. And then in here, there's some darker green, but let me just lighten it a little. It's maybe too dark. Put just a little hint of green in there. Okay, well, welcome everyone to the live stream. I'm glad that you could join. And if you haven't already done so, just hit the like and subscribe if you want to get watching more videos like this. I try to go live at least once a week. And it's a lot of fun. Okay, so now I've just got a little white, and I added some of that yellow oxide just so it's not kind of pure white. I'm just sort of building some of those feathers there. And I'll add a little bit. Oh, I just wanted to mention I've got a few colors that you know, you don't really see much, but they're really good, and I get them from Michael's, these Liquitex Basics, and this is turquoise and purple gray, and they're like $5.99, and you can't go wrong just to have some fun colors out on your palette. I know some people want to mix all their colors, but it's sometimes just sort of fun to play with colors. I also have this little favorite of mine from Golden, and that one is a real fun one for backgrounds, the light phthalo green. So just a few things I like. Some people might say, well, those are all fake colors. I've heard it all. So I just like using them. So I'm going to add a few little light notes where I see them on the sides here of the beak. And you can get a little white, and I've got out some quinacridone red and some naphthol red and alizarin. So you can add a little quinacridone, will make it a little more pink, kind of add a little bit more of a brighter highlight there. You can always add a little orange to it, and it's kind of gives you that brighter highlight color there. Okay, now back to we're going to go back to the greens, I think, on him. So I'm going to take a little, I want to get some of those kind of jade green colors. So you got this Viridian, and then you add a little bit of that cad yellow to it, and you can get that nice bright green, and then you can kind of put a few strokes of that in there. And I'm making the brush strokes kind of like the way the feathers go, just sort of going with the way. And then you can add a little more, you can add some more white in there, and then maybe a bit of this blue. And that's that turquoise color I showed you, and it will make that real pretty, those little flicks of really bright greeny blue that are in there. Okay, and so now I realized I haven't really done anything with the eye yet. So I've got this is just some black I had out. I think it's actually carbon black. I wasn't really picky because it's, just for the beak and the eye. So, and I'm just using a little round brush for this. And I think it's a rosemary brush that I had bought a long time ago, and I never used it because sometimes you buy nice stuff and then you never use it. So that's kind of what it was. And don't worry if you don't get the beak just right, because the canvas will cause it to kind of, leave these little kind of little blips. Don't worry, because you can paint the background on there and fix that right away. So while I'm here, I'm just going to kind of mark some little, put some little claw marks. They don't need to be perfect, but just kind of something to show the little feet. All right, so, before I move on, I'm going to get a little bit of that gray. And you see on the eye, there's that trim. I'm just going to go and put a little bit of that detail in there. When you see their eyes up close, it's pretty cute. Let me just get a little brighter white. They have little white feathers just around their eye. And just go back in. If you make the highlight too big, you can always go back in and reshape the eye again and then work on it. You can let it dry even and come back to it. And then around the beak, there's some little feathers that really show off that beak too. And then you can go and shape around the eye again too. Put a little of that burnt sienna in there. You can kind of shape out in here. There's a little bit of a shadow that really helps. So I'm going to use some Viridian and some of that burnt sienna and just kind of go in there and put a little bit of a shadow around the eye. There. And then take a little tiny dot of white and just put a little highlight in there. Okay, I'm going to leave that for now. And I can go in and use some of that shadow color just to really get in a little bit more depth underneath his little red throat. Or I think they're called ruby-throated hummingbird. And okay, so now I want to work on some of those greens. Okay, so get a little bit of burnt sienna, some of that green, just to get sort of that lighter kind of limey green there. Just add a little more yellow to the mix. And then you can sort of add that a bit in wherever you see a little bit of that lighter. Put a little bit on the edge of his head there, and then some of those little feathers kind of go off into the and then underneath in the tail, put a little more of that green. And then I'm going to blue it up and make a little blue so that it's kind of light and bright, but it's not going to be competing with the white up on the chest later. So I'm going to add a little bit. I added a little bit of that blue. You could just add some cobalt to white if you want to make a blue like that. And just kind of brightening up that. You don't want to lose the shadow completely, so you kind of blend in some of that gray mix a little bit in there so it still keeps that shape. Okay, and then, well, thanks, Rick, for commenting. That's great. I appreciate that. And okay, now I'm gonna let's do something bright and different for the wing. So I'll add a little orange and this raw sienna and just get something to liven it up a bit. I'll add a little white and orange and raw sienna for the tail just to get some brighter color on there. Just adding in some of that. And then we haven't dealt with the branch yet, so I'm just going to put up, I'm going to put just an underpainting first of some of that burnt sienna just to have some color down there. On that little branch. And you kind of can start seeing that I'm adding a little more detail here and there. Add a little bit of that color into his face. There's some little kind of brighter colors that aren't green. They're sort of like a neutral color. And then you can get some darker, go in with and put a few darker strokes back in, because you can see the value is quite deep there. So you can go get some ultramarine blue and some of that burnt sienna. Just go in there, put a few darker marks in there. Okay, so before I get carried away, I want to quickly add in a background. So there's a bunch of different varieties that I do. Sometimes I just do like a lot of color, and with, let me see if I have one nearby. Well, sometimes I do a lot of color in the background, but because this bird is so kind of still looking and everything, you could use, like, I've got out this is another really handy color from Michael's, the green gray color, which really suits this kind of more peaceful kind of tone. So I might just go with more of a nice, this greeny gray color, and put some of that down. And it also contrasts the light part of the hummingbird that you really want to, when you paint a bird, you kind of have to focus in on kind of an area that you want to show off. No different than, when you paint a flower or something else. You kind of want to show something off. The tail you're not so worried about, but the head and the beak area, you want to get. So I'll take that darker color, and then I'll mix some white into it, and then you can go and add where there's the kind of the lighter side of the picture. You can go and add a little white to that mix. And if you don't have a color like that right out of the tube, you can mix some cobalt and some burnt sienna and a little bit of viridian, and then add some white to it, and you'll get a really pretty color like that. So just saves me a lot of time if I have it all kind of if I can find colors like that are pre-made. Why not make your life easier once in a while? So I'm just going to go along and use a brush on these, closer to the head. I don't want to mess it up too much. So and I will talk about how to really enhance the shape of the bird with light and dark values as you go around the bird. So just let me get this in quick. Okay. So what you can do to really emphasize different areas, you can go in and get some white, even add a little viridian, and kind of get a color that's almost the same but real light. And say I want to really kind of emphasize around the back of the head, I'll put a lighter bit of that paint. You can even add some colors because it's so gray. You can add a little bit of this turquoisey, that it's the light phthalo green in there, and add a bit of, see how it's bringing up the shape of the head a little more. And then you can put a little there, but then you might want to show the chest off a little more, so you could go in and get, add a little viridian to that green gray, and you could even add a tiny bit of that burnt sienna, and then go in and just sort of get a darker tone, you know, where you want to show the light. And we're going to add some more highlight to the, you know, to the throat area. So you want to kind of get something in there that's a little darker, and then just a few in between notes. So I'll mix those two puddles a little and kind of have kind of an in between. So it's not just a real boring transition, you know, just have a few. Just a little bit of movement there. And if you lose your twig, you can just kind of put it back on. Just adding a little bit of some light color to that. Kind of lost a bit of the tail there, so. Okay, so now I'm gonna look and go back to the details. And for example, one of the details I didn't really deal with is the beak. So I'll go and I want to get the paint a little closer and kind of, you know, give that beak more of the shape, a smaller, you know, the shape is kind of off because the canvas is still showing around it. So I'll kind of go in and fix that. And then you can go and get a real kind of brighter orange highlight by using some quinacridone red, and you can add a little bit of that cad yellow to it so it warms it up a bit. And you can look at the edge sort of and just add a few lighter strokes of color so it's kind of brightens up the sides there. And then I just start looking at all the details. So I'll look at, well, thanks there, Wendy, for the comment. That's really kind of you. Once in a while, I look up and see the comments, but I try to focus on the painting. So I like to loosen things up a little. So I'll take a little bit of the feathers and kind of, you know, really kind of mess it up a little like that. And then I'll take some of the orange and do the same on here. I'll kind of add some color into the background from the bird. It just feels more fun. And same with it here. You can just kind of mess it up a little. It just has some, for some reason, it just looks way more interesting. And there's a little detail like around the neck. I'll put that little lighter bit of feathers in there because it kind of brings the shape around the neck there. And then this is where you can have fun kind of going back and forth and adding a little more thicker paint to the chest and everything. You kind of get to the point where everything's kind of laid there. It's all kind of laid out for you, so you can mess it up a little. And then I like to kind of play around with colors, so I'll add a little more, this maybe some orange and a little bit of this red and some white, and just get it's too much water over there. I'm going to bring it over here. A few kind of almost like a coral color. You can put a few strokes there, here and there, where you see some lighter things going on. Little details, you just kind of, once you get painting, then your brain finally starts to kind of operate a little better. Takes a while before you get there some days. So don't feel bad if you kind of feel it's hard to loosen up. Just give yourself some time to do a few paintings that you're kind of more just sort of working on that and not worried about, what it's going to turn out to be like. And sometimes even just using those pads of acrylic paper are a really good way to, not worry about it. And what else? Let's see, you can put a few more feathers in there. You can maybe let's darken a bit of this under here. And on the edge, you could even try something different. Use some of that yellow oxide and just sort of add a little bit of you can see the light kind of travels down. Just bring a little bit of that in. And you can just add some random marks to the backgrounds to add a little flash of color here and there. And have fun with that. Well, I don't know how much I can do without kind of going backwards and adding too much paint to it. So I think, what did let's review. We just started out with the drawing, and we started with blocking in the basic colors. And then we just kind of builded, each layer up. And then also don't forget these colors. Really cheap, so it's not they're like $5.99, and you can use your coupon and if you buy them online with Michael's right now, they always are giving 20% off or 30% off your order online. And then so yeah, you could try that. I'm using this Masterson Stay Wet palette, and I'll put a link for that in the description. Other than that, don't forget to share it with a friend. And I have a Patreon channel also with loads of full-length videos and tips and tricks on there. So I look forward to keep sharing with you guys, and it's a lot of fun for me. So yeah, if you try it out, let me know, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye, everyone.